So in the last video we created a news content type. It wasn't particularly imaginative, but you know, it's a new content type. We demonstrated how content types work within Drupal. And in this video we will go through and show how you can automatically create dummy content. So quite often when trying to kind of make things work, if you want to show lists of stuff or whatever, you need to have content in there to be able to kind of populate those lists. If you were using something like Symfony, you know, you could create content which could then be kind of imported just as something to kind of help you with development. Drupal doesn't have that as such, but what it does have is a module called Devel. So if we go to Drupal Devel, and Devel is a suite of modules for helping developers and themers. So it has various helper functions, blah 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 blah, yada yada yada, but it also has generate content. So that's really useful. So we'll install that, and the way we install that is much the same as the previous thing when we installed the email module. Just drush en-y to force it, Devel, downloads it, puts it into sites all modules Devel. That's our second module. So if we now actually look in sites all modules, you can see we have got two modules. So these are all the third-party contributor modules, or you know, contrib modules as they're known, that we've downloaded and added. And because we've downloaded it, because we've used en, it's automatically enabled it. Note that you don't have to have the the module. You could just download it and not have it enabled. Yeah. So we've downloaded that, it's enabled. So let's go back to our Drupal installation, and if we refresh that page, we can see, oh, well, we've got a Devel tab on there. What does that tell us? It tells us, look at that, it's got some great stuff. It tells us all stuff about things. All very exciting. That's not really what we're interested in. We're interested in something that tells us somewhere around here, somewhere, please help. I don't even know where it is. Don't even know where that thing is. Where does Devel give us? In fact, why is Devel not here? Oh, Devel is probably down here. Devel generate. So Devel generate is not actually enabled by default. So it's actually, because it's downloaded, we can see here, it actually told us drush en-y Devel. Following projects provide some extension, not found, blah blah blah, not found, Devel, okay. I know what from. Devel was not found. How bizarre. Anyway, let's download them. Yes. So it's downloaded project Devel, and that actually contains 3 modules. So you can have multiple modules within a project, and in this instance we've got Devel generate, Devel, and Devel node access. So by default it's just given us Devel, which gives us all the basic kind of developer tools. We want generate, so we could do that through here by just doing that. We're not going to in this instance. We're going to come in here, we're just going to say Devel generate and save. For the most part, I find it easier and quicker to enable and disable modules and download modules via drush than using the GUI. But nonetheless, Devel generate is now there. So now we should find somewhere in here there should be the ability to generate dummy content. Lord knows where it is, but it's probably around here somewhere. I don't even know what I'm doing. Where is... Oh, sorry. Idiots. Configuration. Development. So you've got all this generate content stuff, generate menu. So we can generate a bunch of stuff. So we want to generate some content. So we can generate different types of all thing. So we can delete all content as well if we want. So let's blank out everything that was already there. We'll generate 50 nodes. Yeah, great, fantastic. Generate that. That's created 3 nodes. Nice, fantastic. So now when we go to content, we'll see we've got all this stuff, all this fantastic rubbish. So lots of dummy stuff. We've got some news articles there that's added. Look, see, it's even managed to, and it's really clever. It is really clever. So it's added body, it's added titles, even for the content types that we created, so the custom content types, and it's going to then just manage to do all of that. So it's given us a title, it's given us a I don't know, body text, it's given us a subtitle, it's added an image to the image field, and it's even generated multiple images for the second image field that we created. So if I go back to content, we see so we've got all that new stuff, all these are the basic pages. And we'll find there's probably a few articles in there as well somewhere. Article, there we go. That's got an image and some text. I wonder if did it give us an email address? That's interesting. That image didn't work there, but it didn't generate email addresses by the looks of it, which is interesting to note. Yeah, so it's not. So by the looks of it, Devel and email hasn't kind of hasn't kind of triggered there. But that's I guess that's not the end of the world, is it? But let's just give us some dummy content. Now, by default, if I go to the Drupal homepage, it's got this kind of notion of an output, and here it's just outputting the article-based content. I think it's not outputting anything else. So part of the kind of the default behavior is that article content gets output as this kind of list page thing here. So we can add, if we wanted to, we can we could go into a basic page and we could edit that, and we can say it should sit in the menu. And we can save that, and we get an item in the menu, which gives us a way of actually linking to the content, because all of our basic page content at the moment, if we weren't logged in, you wouldn't be able to get to any of it. It all exists, and it's all on public URL. It's all on kind of URLs that are accessible, but there's no way to navigate to it. Whereas our article content, is, we've got this list here, and it's all paginated, and all that stuff works. But our basic page content and our news content is not visible. So we've added that menu link to a basic page. We can also go to menus, and we can reorder how those things get. We can reorder how things appear on that list. So we can say, right, let's put the home link first. So now, when we see that, we've got home first, and then the name of the basic page afterwards. So you've got menus, but what about if we wanted to actually create a list of news items? How would we do that? We could do that using code, but Drupal, one of the most powerful modules that exists for Drupal is Views, and Views is the kind of the monster of all Drupal projects. It's like super glue. It does everything. And in fact, before I go into that too much, I just want to explain a little bit about the block structure. So if I were just go and look at blocks. So I mentioned how blocks can be the header, the footer, sidebars, that kind of stuff. You've got all these kind of different, these things here are your kind of areas. It's called regions. So you've got the header region, help region, highlighted region, content regions, sidebar first, sidebar second, all that kind of stuff. And we can see that the search form, navigation, and user login are all in the sidebar first. Sidebar first is this bit here. If I wanted to, I could go to blocks, and I could move the navigation to sidebar second, and if I do that, save that, and then come out, we will now see that navigation has moved over there. Search box stays on the left, so you've got sidebar first, sidebar second. So that's just regions, areas to kind of place bits of content around your main page content. So let's go back into blocks. So we might, let's say for example, we want, on an article page, you might want to have on the right here, you might want to have a list of related articles or a list of other articles on the site. So that would go into a block, because the page is about this node, it's about this piece of content, this article or whatever it is, basic page. But you might want to also have some other content listed out here. Now you could do that by just going to blocks and add a block and say, okay, we're going to get some content, and we're going to say that's, I don't know, is some content. How exciting is that? And we're going to add to that, a list of things. I don't even know if we can put HTML. Can we put allies? Yeah, we can put allies. Probably. Actually, we can use URL as well. So let's put a URL in there. Or we could put ahref equals. We could put a URL there, article 1. And we could do that. We could do that a couple of times. And we could save that. And having kind of created that, where is some content? Where is some content? Some content is here, so let's add that to the sidebar second. And whilst we're at it, let's move our navigation back to sidebar first. And we can save that. And now when we look at here, we've got some content written here. If we go, and so that's going to show up on all pages, and those articles are kind of, the links are hard coded. So that's kind of great, but it'd be nice, if it only appeared on certain pages, and it would also be nice if it appeared, if the content was a bit more dynamic. And we'll handle those two scenarios kind of slightly separately. We'll handle the listing of the dynamic part of the content using views, and we'll come back to another module which is called context to talk about kind of the placement of blocks and manage that, because context is great. But anyway, digress. Views. Let's talk a bit about views. So views is the super glue, does everything. It's magic, and it's really quite a complicated thing to explain because it does so much. And people say, oh, well, is it this? So yes, but it's not just that. Well, is it this? Well, yeah, it can do that as well, but it's not just that. So it does lots of magic things. The easiest way to explain how much views does is that I think, this may be wrong now, but I'm fairly certain that at least at some point there were more lines of code in views than there were in the whole of Drupal core. So it's massive. And we've just downloaded views, and it's also, look at this, how cool is that? It's not only downloaded views, but because views has a dependency on CTools, it's also downloaded CTools. CTools is actually Chaos Tools, which is another module, I think, possibly also by Merlin of Chaos, maybe, I don't know, I can't remember. CTools, Drupal, CTools. There it is, Chaos Tools. Yes, Merlin of Chaos, crazy man. So, yes. Download dependencies. Let's see whether our views are there. I suspect they may well not be. No, they're not, because within this, we notice again we've got two modules, views and views UI, and we can see from our modules probably here that views is there, but views UI is not enabled. And views UI is the admin interface to views. So we're going to struggle to build a view if we don't have Views UI enabled. So let's just enable that. So now we should see, if we refresh that page and scroll to the bottom, lo and behold, Views UI is enabled, and notice that Views is now, we've got a grey checkbox. We can't disable that because Views UI is dependent on views. So whilst Views UI is enabled, we can't disable views. That's good if we don't want to disable it. What we do want to do is go back to structure, and now we can see we've got views. Views is essentially a way of match. It basically allows you to specify where the data that comes in and how it goes out. That's the long and the short of it. But that on its own doesn't do kind of justice to how much it can do. So we're going to do a test here of showing of list news content. and then we're going to show content. It is content that we want to show, and it's of type news. We're going to go with all the stuff there. We're going to create a page for it. No, we're not. We're going to create a page for it. Let's create a page for it because we did want to have a list of news, but we're also going to do then something really funky as well. So the page line is going to be news, unformatted list, blah blah blah, newest first. That's great, isn't it? Look at that, it's got a pager. So we can save and exit, save and continue. What should we do? Let's save and exit. So now, look at that. /news now gives us a list of all our news articles, and they've got links, and they go to the news article. And it just all works. It's magic. And that creates this thing. I don't even know what that does. It's like that's to edit the content. But this other gear here gives us edit view. So we can get to views edit by structure views, or we can kind of edit in situ by just kind of finding the view we want to edit, or the thing we want to edit, even because the blocks you can do there as well. You configure block, edit content. We're going to go edit view, and from here we can now start to see actually the details of what was created by that kind of setup thing. So we can see that we've created a page display, which means it's basically something with a URL and is outputting some content. The title of the page is news. It's an unformatted list. It's showing content. It's not using fields. If we wanted to, we could limit, rather than outputting that, we could say unformatted. What could we do? What could we do? Not unformatted. Show content. Show fields. If we said show fields, we would then need to say what fields we want to look. It would say, no, it's actually not going to complain, but we would have to tell it what fields we wanted to display. So we could add, in fact, let's leave it as just title, because before we had all the others, we had lots of other stuff showing, and now we've got just titles showing. So if I save that, note that beforehand we had all the different content, and now we've got just titles. And if we want to, we can go and edit that view again. Oh, just show it. Still links to the news items. There's still the news item there, but our news list is just the titles. But if we go and edit view, we could add to that the content body. Add that, and we could save that. And now it shows the title and the body. Title and the body. The body's really long, isn't it? So we could edit that. Let's remove the body, and let's say there's probably a teaser field, which will be a maybe there isn't a teaser field. I was lying. But anyway, what we can do is say we want the body, and we can then just do a summary or trim. Look at that, summary or trim length 600. Let's give that a go. Save that. Jobs are good. Body's now much shorter. Title, body, title, body, title, body. So depending on what you want, you might just want, if you just want literally to get a basic kind of output of things, you can just do show content and that will work. But if you want to customize it, you can customize it, and boy can you customize it. So if we save that and go back to there, see we've got that showing out there. This is outputting as HTML. So let me just show you what happens if I now say, okay, I want to edit that view. So the query is basically saying, give me published content of type news and order it by date. And it's creating a page type display. We might also want to create a block. And the block title is going to be news. In fact, let's change that to so just imaginative. And so that's full page item. So let's change that so it doesn't show all items to display 10. How do I change page? Full more link? No, full page. display a specific number of items. That's what we want. Number of items 10. But let's change it to 5 just to make it nice and short, a bit snappy. So we can say now we're not going to display a pager for our block. So our page view output did have. Oh no, I'm being an idiot. So page output full pager, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. Number of items 10. On our block, we want that to be different. So for all note for this block, specific number of items, 5. Done. So now our block will display 5 items and there won't be a pager. But for the page output, there will be a pager and it'll be limited to 10 items. How good is that? We can save that and note that our news list is still there and that's still working fine. But now we could perhaps do something a little bit smarter with our block. So we've got some content in there. So let's take that let's take that down into the disabled section and let's use our news block, which must be around there somewhere. Where's our news block? Why can't I? There we go. Views, list news content. Come on. Sidebar second. This will be amazing. Look at that. You've now got 5 items there. We might think, oh, do you know what? I just want the titles in that little block. Edit view. News block. Content. Just for this block. Fields. Apply. This block override. Yada yada yada. Title. Body. Let's remove that from there. So now on our page, it's doing showing content, and on our block, it's using fields. But it's using the same filter criteria. So if we change the filter criteria, we could basically come up with the same kind of criteria for how we kind of get a set of information and apply that to multiple outputs. One that's going to create a page of content, one that's going to create a block. One's going to display kind of title and body of stuff, and the other's just going to show the the list of titles. So it's the same query to pull out the data, but it's a different display format. So, if we're looking at one of our news articles, we now see that list of things there. Ideally, I guess you might say you just want that list to be there. You wouldn't want to see it on the news page because everything's listed here anyway. Why would you have that? That's where we'll come on to context in a future video. The last thing I want to show you with this, just to show you how kind of sophisticated this can get. At the moment we're just outputting HTML, but what I'd really like to do is output something that could be used by another application. So what we're going to do is, I think it's something like Views JSON. Views Datasource, there you go, look at that, amazing. 7.1, what was that last one? Views JSON, that's an older one. Yeah, it's gone. Views Datasource. So this special. We install that. Views Datasource, a bit weird, isn't it? Okay, go away. Thank you. Let's see what's in there. Views Datasource. Look at that. Very good. We're now going to get a really crazy thing that if we add, we're going to add another page output. Display name page, and let's call this page JSON. And let's change the format of this from unformatted list to, in fact, actually that's not showing what I wanted because, let me save that. Let's change, set it a path. Page address needs a path which is undefined, auto approved. Where's path? No path is set. So if we do news.json for that, we'll save that. let's just have a little look at that. Come back, edit that view, page.json, unformatted list. Actually, do you know what? I wonder if our not sure those are. I wonder if our module's actually enabled. Views JSON's not enabled yet, so let's just go and enable it. So it's already downloaded, so now it should hopefully. Okay, that's just going weird, isn't it? Would you like to download them? No. Okay, we'll cancel that. It's just messing around. Views JSON, save configuration. Come on. Yes, let's go. So I don't know why that didn't work via Drush, but we'll ignore that for the moment. So come back to, let's go to our view, edit, page.json. Notice that's just the name. At the moment it's just the name, it's the path, and it's not actually outputting JSON. So if we view page.json, there you go, it's just kind of, it's just giving us the same thing as before. But we want news.json to output as a JSON data document. Oh yes. Just accept the defaults there, and we're going to save that, and now it's not working. So let's see why it's not working. Settings, simple, no, except overridden, all data. Provision view content JSON data, that's all fine. Probably don't want a pager. Oh, cancel that. That should be on that for all pages. Oh, in fact, idiot. That should be on that. We want page.json unformatted list, this page, JSON data document, apply, content type, fine. We also want, for this page only, display all items. This probably won't have fixed whatever the issue was there. In fact, it hasn't. I'm not entirely sure why that's kind of not worked, but we'll come back to that. Let us instead go to, where's my let's have a look at something in send. So that's outputting back as HTML. Why is that outputting as HTML? Can we find out what's going on? News content field title content, yes. Advanced. I wonder if it could be something as simple as. I wonder if it could be something as simple as the caches. There we go, look at that, simple as that. It's just the cache. So Drupal has a theme cache that doesn't get cleared all the time. So when you do something, obviously we'd looked at news.json whilst it was outputting HTML, and so therefore it's carried on doing that. And even though we were changing the view settings, it was still outputting HTML. We just wanted it to return JSON. So that's what it was returning, but that was basically Drupal caching that. So having now cleared the caches, we can now send it, and we can see that's now returning a load of JSON. On its own, not massively useful, but if we go back to the news page, so we can get to that, edit the view, go to page.json, if we add to that a node ID, and save that, and then go back to here and send that, we can see now we're getting not only the title but we're also getting the node ID. Now let's say, for example, we had another view that, rather than just returning that basically took an argument that was the node ID, which you can do. You can specify a view that is on page URL but has some form of argument, takes in an input, and uses that. So I wonder if that's a contextual filter on here. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, it takes that kind of input and uses it to filter data. So you can take a node ID, filter down your items to just the one that matched that node ID, and then output all of the fields for it. So you've got something where you're the building of effectively like a web services for all your content. So then Drupal can effectively just run as a content management system, and the only thing it outputs that's of any use to people is JSON to be used by mobile apps or whatever. So with views, what we've done there is we've created a list of news items. We've created our news block, and notice that our node ID is coming through now there, and we don't really want that. So let's change that. Let's change the block here. We're going to rearrange that. We're going to say, no, this block, remove that, don't want that. Save that, save, close that. Node ID's gone from there. We only did it for that block, so the node ID is still there. So node ID is there for that output. Node ID not showing for that output. So we've got a news page, we've got a news block, and we've got some JSON coming out, and that was all done from one view. That's just one view. Just using the views module, we've created one view called list news content. It's outputting one block and two pages, one page being news, one page being news.json, and we've done all that with one module. That's pretty much about as kind of as easy, the easiest way I can sort of show the complexity of that. There are loads of modules that plug into Drupal that allow it to kind of bring in data in different ways, to output data in different ways. You can use, you've got a Google Maps plug into View, so you can say, great, grab all this data, and if it's got location, and if it's location aware data, then it just appears on a Google Map, all that kind of stuff. So you can do really clever things there. And you can also write your own custom modules that will then augment your views. So let's say, for example, you were doing, rather than here where it's effectively just saying, bring back all content that's of type news that's published and order it by post date. You might want to do a really complicated query there that's actually saying, well, you but only do that if this other content is whatever and blah, 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 and complicate things. You can do some of that through relationships, but sometimes it gets even more complicated than that, and then you can start doing query alters and things like that using the Drupal hook system. Probably won't go into that too much. We'll come into the hook system later, but just basically the thing to take away from this is that there is a huge amount of extensibility, and with that huge amount of capability, one just needs to be a little bit kind of smart and a little bit aware about how you use that functionality, because there is that old adage, just because you can doesn't mean you should. It is tempting to look at all this stuff and think, wow, this is great, I can do all of this stuff and I'll just use this and build stuff and it'll just be great. The downside of using views to do everything is that the configuration of all these views is just database content. It's just stuff that goes in the database, and it's very difficult to bring that kind of configuration under test at a sort of unit test level. And if you can't bring it under unit test, then you will find it very hard to sustain that functionality. So if you've got something simple where it's outputting a list of news content and it's just something like that, that's probably fine. But if you've got something that's so complicated that you're having to write kind of custom kind of alterations and stuff like that, and your things become a really kind of key piece of business logic, that's where I would suggest that one perhaps shouldn't be using something that can't be properly tested. And if the only way you can do a test on this is through the UI or through some sort of functional test, that's too high level. You need to be able to kind of bring this under a unit test, and that's the kind of that's the key thing for me. If the functionality is important and important enough to have a unit test associated with it, it probably shouldn't be using views. If it's not, if you're looking at it thinking I don't need to put that under test, and you're certain you don't need to, then it may well be a candidate to do using views. Most basic site building stuff that happens uses views. It's too easy, it's too straightforward to use anything else. But there is a line. There's stuff that's easy, yes, use views. There's stuff that's really, really, really complicated and is key business logic, don't use views. And somewhere in the middle is a grey area. So that is your introduction to views and all of the, I'm literally scratching the surface about what it can do. But I hope that's been useful, and we'll come back and talk about other modules later.